Hello, this is Sherry Taylor with Providential Health, and I am so glad you've joined me today. I hope you will gain something and that this will be worth your time. I appreciate you watching, and I want to talk about sugar today. And I do have some note cards, some notes so that I won't forget to say anything, so hopefully you won't mind if I check my notes. But sugar. Is it good for you or is it bad for you? That's what I want you to decide, and whenever you finish this video, hopefully you can make a good verdict. Sugar is in most everything. It's in the natural foods, vegetables, fruits. It's in man-made foods, processed foods. So sugar is all around us, and we really get an overload of sugar. But I'm going to talk about sugar, kind of the basics of sugar, and then how sugar acts in our body and the dangers of sugar. So I would like to touch on those, and I'll try to do it as quick as I can. But it is important for us to know. I feel like sugar is very important concerning our health, whether we're healthy or whether we're not. I feel like it's very important. Sugar cane, honey, maple syrup, molasses, those are foods because even though they're sweet and used as sweeteners, they have nutrition in them, and that makes them more of a food. Whereas white sugar is chemically processed and it's just empty calories. So the natural sugars that are in fruits and vegetables and dairy even, they are absorbed more slowly, released more slowly into the body, and absorbed more slowly because of the fiber and the nutrients. Added sugar is what's bad. Sucralose, sucrose, which is table sugar, added sweeteners, the chemical sweeteners, aspartame, sucralose, saccharin, and high fructose corn syrup. Those are a little more dangerous because they are absorbed quickly and spike the blood sugar. So this is why it's better to eat a whole fruit, a whole apple, the whole grape, the whole orange, rather than fruit juice. It's easy to want to give fruit juice to little children, but I highly discourage that because it's just way too much sugar. You can get a cup of apple juice and there can be 27 grams of sugar in that. I've seen it very high. Different brands are different, but it's just too much sugar. So it's better to eat the whole fruit. And you can make applesauce and stewed apples. Children love that. And at least you're getting the fiber and the other nutrition with it. So consumption of sugar has increased dramatically over the last few centuries. And in 1700s, the average adult ate 4 pounds of sugar per year. Okay, that's per year. In the 1900s, it was quite a bit of a jump. So that was 200 years. It was up to 90 pounds per year. But I wanted to mention, actually, sugar for those centuries ago was mainly for the wealthy. The common people didn't even get to have white sugar or white flour. It was the brown sugar and the brown whole wheat, rough ground wheat. So even the wealthy were the only ones that got to eat that fancy stuff. So in 2008, over half Americans consume a half pound of sugar per day. That's 180 pounds per year. So that's a big jump from 4 pounds a year to 180. And that tells me why we're in such bad shape. Recent reports show the average is 70 grams of fructose per day, which is 300% above the recommended allowance. The American Heart Association recommends for men 9 teaspoons or 37 grams per day. For women, 6 teaspoons or 25 grams per day. And if I understood right, this was talking about added sugar, not considering the pineapple or the grapes or the carrots. This was added sugar. So this is way less, 6 teaspoons, way less than what the normal person consumes nowadays, which is 63 grams or 16 teaspoons of sugar per day. And if you notice things and you watch what you eat, you check labels or anything, you're going to know that it is so hard to stay under 6 teaspoons of sugar a day. Because it's in everything. It's hidden in everything. It's in tomato sauces, dressings, spaghetti sauce. It's in can of beans. I mean, sugar is everywhere. It's hidden everywhere. And also, there is a list that you can find online. I saw a title that said 56 names of sugar. I think there's other titles that might pop up if you're searching, but I saw one that said 56 names of sugar. And I think it would be good to know the names of sugar so that when you're reading labels, you recognize those that are sweeteners, chemically processed sweeteners, so you'll know. Okay, so what sugar does in our body. We need sugar. Our brain uses sugar, but we want the natural kind, the kind that our bodies are meant to have. It is a source of fuel for our cells. Now, our brain cells use glucose. The blood carries the sugar to all the tissues, the organs in the body that need it. Sugar fuels energy, but also think about how much energy we are expending. So if you take in a lot of sugar, should be burning a lot of sugar. Our ancestors put on extra weight so that it would carry them through the lean times, because we all know the hunter-gatherer days, they didn't eat good every day. They only ate really good randomly. So they had to carry themselves through the lean times. Bears, they pack on the fat so they can hibernate in the winter. We are not traveling like the natives did years ago. We are not hibernating like bears, so we don't need that extra storage. Experts are now saying that the average American could go 60 days with no food. They could fast for 60 days because obesity is becoming very rampant in our world nowadays. Our blood sugar, meaning the sugar that has been released into our bloodstream, must be kept constant or level. Because if our blood sugar gets too high, it can be dangerous. If our blood sugar gets too low, that can be dangerous. So our blood has to stay level, and that's what insulin does when sugar comes into our body. So our bodies know that to get sugar is a treat. We all know that it's a treat. Our chocolate or that coffee beverage, they call it now. Our taste buds love it. Our brains love it. We love the sweetness. When we eat sugar, the reward center of our brain is activated. Serotonin and dopamine are released, the feel-good hormones. And so these mood boosters are released, and we get a high from eating sugar. And we can become addicted. We don't like to think of it that way, but people do get addicted. And there have been reports of some that actually have withdrawal symptoms when they cut out sugar cold turkey, just like a drug addict does. So we can get addicted to sugar. Our bodies naturally secrete feel-good hormones to give us joy and peace. And like I said, we're supposed to have sweetness. We're supposed to have these feel-good hormones, but we're supposed to have them naturally, occurring naturally. Like when we hold our newborn baby to our breast, or we are walking along the beach with our lover. You know, those are feel-good hormones that are released, and our body is happy and relaxed and calm. All those things are the way we are supposed to feel. But sugar disrupts the natural pattern. It triggers these hormones in an unnatural way, so that we need more and more sugar to get that same high. And you've seen it, you know how that works. You want something sweet in the morning, you have a high, and then you crash. You need something else sweet. That'll raise you up for a little while, then you crash again, and people do that all day long. Up and down, up and down. And that imbalance is not good. And so we have to have more and more sugar to get that same high. And that's why it's called sugar cravings. Scientists are finding, I talked about the addiction, that sugar addicts and drug addicts have the very same reactions in the brain. And that's been studied on mice and other things. Brain scans show the same areas lit up. And you've seen the pictures of the brain scans. They have these funny colored lights where different parts of the picture there. So the brain reacts the very same with sugar and drugs, which is why it's dangerous. And some people would rather die than to give up their sugar. So if that's not addiction, I don't know what is. Along with the feel-good hormones in serotonin and dopamine, insulin, cortisol, and leptin are disrupted by sugar also. Cortisol is a crucial hormone for our overall well-being and health. Leptin is our body's signal that we've had enough to eat. We should stop eating. We're full. So sugar disrupts it so that our bodies are not getting the correct signal. We're not hearing what our body is saying. Okay, so the way sugar works, this is a summary. Basically, we eat sugar. Our enzymes break it down into glucose. Glucose is released into the bloodstream and it's transported to the organs, all the parts of our body that need it, into the brain, and it's converted into energy. So our body does use sugar as energy. The beta cells in the pancreas monitor this. The pancreas releases insulin to control this sugar. The extra is stored. And this is when the problems start, that extra part. When insulin can't keep up, or the body stops producing insulin, that sets the stage for diabetes. Insulin packs the sugar away into fat cells, and it's stored for later use. I would like for you to picture a closet or a storage building. When we have a lot of junk, we stuff it up in the closets, pack it up in there, keep piling boxes. We have a storage building, we keep putting stuff in it, filling it up, more boxes, leftover furniture, old stuff, old toys, old dishes. It just gets fuller and fuller and fuller until there's no room left. And in your closet, things start falling off the shelves because it's too crowded, or the shelf breaks because there's too much stuff. It cannot hold anymore. So keep that picture in mind. And then also the picture of a conveyor belt. And it's just a good way to picture this to see how sugar works and acts in our body and how insulin has to put up with so much. So on a conveyor belt, you can picture that you have boxes coming down the line and they're full of lotions or something like that. Whatever you want it to be full of, it comes down the conveyor belt, and everything goes good as long as that it's even and you've got the right amount of boxes coming through. They get stamped and sealed and all of that. Well, what happens if something speeds up? If they get faster, or you just get more than you need? Too many boxes coming through. Well, after a while down there on the end, the boxes are going to start falling off the edges. The guy on the end can't keep up. Some of the boxes may get mashed. They're going to fall off and get broken. The tape may not be in the place where it's supposed to be. So chaos happens because it cannot keep up with all the boxes coming in. So that is what happens when insulin is trying its best to get this sugar that we keep stuffing in our bodies, this sugar that the body does not know what to do with. The insulin can't keep up. and chaos happens. So it sends, when the sugar comes into the bloodstream, like I said, it sends it where it needs to go. So the liver's had all it needs, the heart has all it needs, the brain has all it needs, the liver, everything has all the sugar it needs. But if you remember, the blood sugar has to stay balanced or it can be very dangerous. So what happens to the extra sugar? The insulin has to put it somewhere, so it starts stuffing it in fat cells, and just keeps stuffing the sugar in there. Because remember, like I said, we're not storing sugar for lean times anymore. We don't have any lean times. So that extra storage never gets taken out of storage. The extra sugar never gets used. We just keep piling more in there. And that leads to trouble. So keep those pictures in your mind when you eat sugar. Just think of that. Now, the dangers of all this, I actually did some classes. I've done classes about health, and I had this paper one time at one of my classes. It says, sugar is poison. I wanted to shock them and make them think about it. So, sugar is not literally poison, but I'll read you what I have written here. This is what sugar causes: cancer, obesity, diabetes, imbalance in hormones. We already talked about that. Low testosterone, infertility, miscarriages, Alzheimer's, arthritis, and that's just a few things. So even though sugar is not the only culprit, sugar leads to all of those diseases, and those diseases make a wonderful breeding ground for cancer to start. So it's very important, and I feel like it's a big deal. Sugar is a big deal. So the blood sugar must be kept level, and insulin is the monitor or the controller, and when it can't keep up, chaos happens. High blood sugar is called hyperglycemia. This leads to heart disease, stroke, possible loss of kidneys, vision, limbs, and damage to nerves and other tissue, also known as diabetes. And diabetes is not to be taken lightly. You know, some may brush it off and just say, well, I'll take my shots or pill or something. But diabetes is bad news. And actually, diabetes is called the gateway to all other diseases. That's scary. The gateway, meaning your body is in the best shape to have all these diseases start growing. And so sugar's the culprit of that. I mean, sugar is what causes that. Loss of limbs, sight, or kidneys is an awful situation to face. The overworked insulin that I showed you a picture of a while ago negatively affects the artery walls, causing the risk of heart disease or stroke. So I've named all those organs and systems that sugar will cause trouble for. But another thing that sugar does is blocks the absorption of nutrients. And this can be very bad, and we don't even realize that it's happening. Especially for vitamin C, calcium, and magnesium. This is called an anti-nutrient. Meaning, even if you eat something good and you eat a lot of sugar, the sugar is stripping the nutrients from your body. It's keeping you from absorbing the good nutrients. So that's why it's called anti-nutrient. So not only does it not give you anything good, it takes away the good that you did have. So that can be very bad. And when calcium and magnesium are low, you actually crave sugar more. And that's interesting. So if you're having cravings, you most likely have an imbalance. Sugar is the leading cause of obesity. We know that. They've done studies on fat versus sugar, and they have found that fat alone will not make you fat, but sugar alone will. So they weren't considering the foods that have sugar, fat, and salt, all those things. They were just kind of talking about fat alone or sugar alone. and sugar alone is the most dangerous. So we used to think fat was bad and fat causes you fat, but all these things that I've told you, we realize sugar is the culprit. Sugar is causing these things to go wrong in our bodies, the hormones and everything out of whack, which causes us to put on the weight. So Dr. Tom says fat is not bad. Bad fats are bad. And I'm going to kind of come up with a saying that all sugar is not bad, but bad sugar is bad. And I also want to say, I think you should be careful about keto. I think ketogenic diet is good, and it has helped a lot of people. But I think people should be very careful, because if you think a keto diet is just high fat, low carb, I think that can be dangerous, because you need to know the right way to do a ketogenic diet. You need to make sure you understand how to eat that way, because you don't want to just stay off carbs. You need vegetables. You don't need just bacon or whatever. Like I said, I think there's fads out there, and they're not really explaining what the ketogenic diet is. So you need to study that out and not just go high fat, low carb. You need to understand there are good carbs and there are bad carbs. Good sugar is fruits and vegetables. Good fats are salmon, fish, avocados, nuts, and seeds. A little olive oil and a little coconut oil. Those are the good fats. Trans fats are bad. Margarine is bad. I can think of a lot of things, but we're not going to go into all that. But think about what you're eating. Sugar raises the blood sugar, of course, which is the dangerous part, which over time leads to insulin resistance, which is that picture I was painting for you, and leptin resistance, thereby gaining weight and fat. Now, that one study about the fat versus sugar said sugar-sweetened beverages like soda is associated with higher risk of death. And they said coffee with sugar is an even higher risk of early death. And that's kind of scary. How many people have their sugar-sweetened coffee every morning? So basically, you're shortening your life. That's what that study is showing. Nutritionist Lisa Kilgore says if you rebalance your gut bacteria, you'll find that your sugar cravings go down. So a sugar craving is usually due to an imbalance in your gut bacteria. And I have done some studying on that, the bacteria in your gut. Some of them love sugar, and when you eat sugar, they feed on it and cause disease. And there's other bacteria that don't feed on sugar. They feed on good vegetables, like asparagus and broccoli. And so they're at war with one another in your gut. So you want to make sure you're eating the good things. And I'm going to go ahead and take a little time to read these real quick. If you want to write them down, you can pause the video or whatever. But high carb veggies are carrots, red bell peppers, corn, onion, chickpeas, peas, sweet potato, and beets. Those have the higher sugar content. High carb fruits: figs, pineapple, grapes, mango, pomegranate, cherries, and banana. So that's no surprise, really, is it? So those are the high carb, and you probably want to eat them sparingly. When it comes to vegetables, I feel like once you have your sugar in balance like it should be, you don't have to worry about eating any vegetables. You can eat whichever vegetables you want. Vegetables in themselves are not harmful. I am a proponent, or whatever the word is, I'm a preacher of eating vegetables. I feel like that's where our health is. Low carb veggies: cucumbers, celery, chard, broccoli, cauliflower, lettuce, spinach, radishes, zucchini, asparagus, mushrooms, tomato. Those are all lower in sugar, and they are so good for you. All of those. Those are going to be feeding the good bacteria. Low carb fruits: watermelon, berries, cantaloupe, honeydew, peaches, avocado, because avocado is actually a fruit. So watermelon might surprise you, but it's such a high water content that you don't eat too much because you're full of the water. So those are good to remember when you're choosing what food you want to eat when you go to the grocery store. But you can look all this online, look up this, and there's good food, bad foods. You can look up high carb foods, low carb foods. So, what is your verdict now? Is sugar good or is sugar bad? I would probably say there needs to be the right balance, but I still think sugar's the bad guy, especially man-made, chemically processed. The things that are in cakes and cookies and pies and muffins and milk chocolate and all of those things. The persuading factor for me is that people who denounce sugar suddenly find that all their symptoms go away. So, how can that be? If sugar would be good for you, how can all those disease symptoms just go away when you stop eating the sugar? So that's pretty persuasive to me. And another thing is, I had a few years back, I had several. I'd have to go back and name them and count them, but I think it was more than 5 at one time with cancer. And they all died. And that grieved me and it troubled me, and I kept trying to figure out why. Why did these all have cancer? And because it was so random. One of them smoked, the others didn't. Some liked traveling, some didn't. Some lived in cities, some lived in the country. Some were old, some were young. One of them was my cousin that was younger than me. And there was nothing they had in common. Nothing they had in common. One was a preacher that didn't smoke or drink, lived a clean life. What did they have in common? The only common denominator I could come up with was sugar. They all liked sugar. So that made me, think carefully about it. I'm not going to say sugar's the culprit for everything and that it's only sugar, because I do feel like there's a lot of things involved that make us sick. A lot of things work together. But it just made me feel like sugar was a danger or something that I needed to be very careful with and use very sparingly. And you may have heard it. I heard someone say to me, I want to keep eating my sugar, my cakes, my cookies. I'm just going to die fat and happy. But they don't. They never die happy. They'll die with cancer or Alzheimer's. Have to have limbs amputated because they have diabetes. They're sick. They're weak. They get crippled with arthritis. I don't call that dying happy. Every once in a while, somebody will die of a heart attack, which is sudden. But can you say they died happy? No. So, die fat and happy? I don't think so. And I don't want to just sound glum and gloomy on this video, but I like people to think seriously about it, because our health is so valuable. Our health is the most valuable thing that we have. I don't want to lose it. I want to feel good. I want to be able to walk upright when I'm 80. I don't want to be in a nursing home. I don't want to have Alzheimer's. I don't want to have arthritis. I don't want those things to happen to me. So I want to do all that I can. I want to take it seriously and do all that I can to make sure I stay healthy, to live a long, healthy life, and to be happy, to have the good, feel-good hormones naturally. So I want to do these things to help my health and give me longevity, a full life, a happy life, and play with my grandkids. And So anyway, that was just kind of what I had about sugar. So I hope you did learn something. I am not a doctor, and I didn't quote the sources where I got my info, but I've heard a lot of doctors speak, and I've read a lot of books and articles, and so I've learned all this from different places. I just didn't take time to write sources. But you can check out Green Med Info, Dr. Mercola, Dr. Josh Axe, The Truth About Cancer, Chris Wark, and then JJ Virgin is an expert on sugar. She has a protocol to help you get off sugar, and she's written books. So all of these have information that would help you. And then I have a Facebook page, Providential Health. I don't know if you have to type in Sherry with a Y, CTNC, Sherry CTNC, or how it'll come up. I actually don't know how to tell you how to find it. But Providential Health is my name, and I have an Instagram account, so you can contact me with them, and then you're welcome. I would love for you to subscribe to my channel here. I don't post very often, but I would like to get more, and as I learn more, I like to share it. So you're welcome to like my pages and follow me on my YouTube, and I would appreciate that. But I wish you the best, and please take control of your health. Watch your sugar, learn to read the labels, and until next time, enjoy God's providence.